At home, please refer to the agenda for instructions. Chairman Gilbert will begin the meeting momentarily.
Planning Commission regular meeting of July 19th, 2023. Have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Eklund,
Present.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson, Commissioner McKinney,
Here.
Commissioner Reedy,
Here.
Vice Chair Hutchison,
Here. Chairman
Gilbert,
Here.
and Commissioner Eric Johnson is absent with notification.
We have a quorum. Item 3, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. And Commissioner Eklund will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 4 is agenda modifications. Do any of the commissioners have any agenda modifications they'd like to offer?
I don't, it's not exactly a modification, but it's more of a question why we don't have an item on the agenda tonight. And that was with regard to the ban on drive-throughs in the downtown area. I thought we were coming back to that tonight.
Yeah, we just simply needed more time. Yeah.
All right.
Staff constraints. That's our entire planning division right there. We did just hire a third planner actually yesterday. So getting back up to speed.
Any other comments? Okay, we'll go to item 5, citizens addressing commission. If any citizen would like to address the commission on any item that is not on our agenda, we'd ask you to please come up to the rostrum with whatever issue you like and address us. We limit the time to 3 minutes, and I'll invite anybody that has an item to please come up and chat with us. Seeing none, we'll close that item and we'll go to item 6, disclosure of ex parte communication. We'll start on this end.
None.
I have none.
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 I don't have a timely one, but I assume that there's no statute of limitations on this. Back in February 20th, I had a conversation over coffee with Councilmember Dan Carlsket. And one part of that conversation is of concern. And that was the theory about planning that Dan described to me as his belief. And it is that essentially the duty of the Planning Commission, according to Dan, is to follow a checklist. And if the applicant follows that checklist, the Planning Commission should approve the project. And when it was said, it was just so astonished me that I didn't think anything more about it until this week when I learned that another member of the Planning Commission had been approached by a council member, probably or maybe not the same one, who had a similar opinion. And I think we need to kind of, if that's an idea floating around, I think we need to correct the impression of that's our job. Because even if our job is to approve a project because it meets the minimum requirements of city code and the general plan, we need to recognize that making that checklist deciding what boxes need to be checked, and then determining if it's appropriate to check that box are all subjective decisions. They are not objective decisions, or very few are. So I think we need to keep that in mind, and that's why I was bringing that forward tonight.
Thank you. Are there any other comments that you'd like to make?
No.
I will indicate that I have electronically communicated with one of the applicants tonight, actually with Tony, just letting him know that he sent out an email. I think it went to all of the members, and I just acknowledged receipt of the email and told him that we'll give him dual consideration on the project that's before us tonight. But I did want to share that with my colleagues. Item 7, consent calendar. Review and approve the June 21, 2023 meeting minutes. And there is the draft minutes before us. What's the pleasure of the commission?
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, I missed 2 seconds. Thank you. Jerry,
His mic
yeah,
wasn't on.
Jerry, when you speak, if you can maybe move the mic forward a little bit, because sometimes I miss whenever you speak. It's
I
also on the
actually missed
recording.
turning it on. It was
Appreciate it.
simple
Thank
as
you.
that.
He didn't have it on, but he'll fix that one.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
You want roll call or voice call?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstention, motion carries 6-0-1. Thank you. Item number 8, public hearings. Excuse me. Lincoln Place tentative subdivision map, a public hearing to consider a tentative subdivision map for the subdivision of 2 parcels totaling 5.32 acres into 21 single-family residential lots ranging in size from 7,000 square feet to 8,645 square feet. The project is located at 2005 and 2035 Nicholas Road on app 021-310-018 and 021-310-019. Would like a staff report, please.
Yeah, good evening, Planning Commission. Efren Sanchez, Senior Planner with Community Development Department. The project we have before you is a tentative subdivision map, Lincoln Place, to divide 2 parcels totaling 5.32 acres into 21 single-family residential lots submitted by Baker Williams Engineering Group. A little bit of context, in 2011, the City Council approved the Nicholas Place tentative subdivision map, which was the early iteration of Lincoln Place for the development of 19 single-family residential lots, 1 lettered lot, and other subdivision improvements. The City Council also certified an initial study mitigated neg deck for the same 5.32 acre project site. Unfortunately, in 2017, the Nicholas Place tentative subdivision map expired with no final map recordation. Subsequently, in 2021, the applicant submitted for a new tentative subdivision map application after multiple submissions, coordination meetings, and different versions of the map. The Lincoln Place tentative subdivision map is the most recent iteration to divide 2 lots into 21 single-family residential lots in R1 zoning with 3 landscape lettered lots. The difference between the 2011 map and the current proposal is an increase in 2 residential lots. The lot increase is partially due to the city revising the minimum lot size in the R1 zone from 6,500 square feet to 6,000 square feet. This is the zoning map for Lincoln, around Lincoln Place. The project site is located near the southeast corner of Nicholas Road and Joyner Parkway. The property is zoned R1 single family residential with a general plan land use designation of low density residential, LDR. The allowed density range in the LDR is 3 to 5.9 dwelling units to the acre. The project is proposing to have a 3.994 dwelling units to the acre, similar to Fullerton Ranch, which is approximately 1,000 feet to the west of Nicholas Road, on Nicholas Road. This is the actual Lincoln Place subdivision map, and you have an aerial picture here of where the project site is, highlighted in blue. The subdivision lots will range in size from 7,000 square feet to 8,649 square feet, with an average lot size of 8,084 square feet. Primary access will be from Nicholas Road via right-in, right-out residential street with a cul-de-sac and street stub out for future connectivity to adjacent development. The roadway and cul-de-sac are designed to accommodate both solid waste vehicles along with fire truck apparatus turning movement. Full improvements are proposed along Nicholas Road to include curb, gutter, and sidewalk, along with the 6-foot tall masonry sound wall. Findings, the project is consistent with the applicable standards of the general plan, such as the general plan policies related to subdivision design outlined in this PowerPoint slide. The project was reviewed and complies with the Lincoln Municipal Code Title 17 subdivisions and Title 18 zoning for lot size, width, depth, and roadway design. The project meets CEQA as the previously certified initial study mitigate neg deck for Nicholas Place adequately address potential impacts of development of developing the 5.32 acre site for residential development. The increase in 2 lots with the current proposed project does not constitute a substantial change that would require major revision to the previously negative declaration. Therefore, the previously adopted mitigated neg deck and mitigated monitoring reporting program for Nicholas Place continues to apply to this project site. Recommendation, staff recommends the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, consider the information and findings in the staff report, as well as public comments, and recommend the City Council adopt a resolution for the following 2 items. Determine that the environmental impacts have been adequately addressed under the Nicholas Place initial study mitigated neg deck, and that no further analysis is required under section 15162 of CEQA guidelines, and adopt resolution 2023-14, thereby recommending that the City Council approve the Lincoln Place tentative subdivision map. That concludes my presentation. If the Planning Commission has any questions, also the applicant is here in the audience if you have any questions as well.
Do you have any questions for staff from the Planning Commission? Please, Sherry.
A couple. Efren, was there why wasn't this done in a little broader context so that you could see what is happening on either side of the project? And the reason I ask that is because when you're dealing with such a narrow, incomplete portion of a whole, you can't make conditions or consider how this relates to traffic flow, to parks, to trails, any of the public improvements that we want to see in residential projects. What we have here is just the bare bones. And we don't know how this is going to relate north and south or east. Sorry, north we know, east, west, or south.
Yeah, I could maybe talk about that a little bit more. If you can see my PowerPoint slide right now. Okay, so this is a project site that's highlighted in blue. We have Foskett Ranch to the north, and then we have Joyner East tentative subdivision map on this side. And then we currently have a project that we're currently in process of reviewing, which is Lincoln 14. Yeah, and it's this adjacent site or parcel to the west. And then, it would include this property to the south, and then it would just go over here to the side as well. And then we also have Fullerton Ranch over here on this project. And then these properties right here, they're still sort of, they're also in R1 zoning, but they're more of like ranchettes, larger parcels. So, I mean, there's most likely going to be a possibility that these will be developed in the future as well. And so I just want to point out that for Lincoln Place, it was designed this way to have that connection off of Nicholas Road. And we've been in coordination with applicants for the Lincoln 14. And it was decided that the best solution to promote connectivity, not to negatively impact Nicholas Road, was to have access off of Lincoln Place and then have a stub out for future development to the west.
Well, let's talk about connectivity. How do you provide pedestrian, bicycle access to nearby employment centers and shopping districts?
Just through the design of the project. I mean, this project was designed to have sidewalks, and there's going to be landscape lots in the front. And so there is standards. And if you look more closely into this map, blow it up, and you can see that it has the proposed sidewalks on the road.
Sidewalks separated from the curbs? It looks on that diagram that they're
Yes,
they're continuous.
Let me share a different exhibit. One second.
I'll jump in for just a discussion point. We were having this actual conversation just prior to the meeting tonight. And it is interesting when you look at the site in the context of the city. It's kind of a last remaining island, if you will, there where you have these ranchettes surrounded by existing development. Some of the development leapfrogged beyond it down Nicholas. And so what you're left with is some individual parcels, and that can be and they're small. I mean, this is a small lot, we're not looking at our typical tentative map where we're thinking 20 acres, even 30 acres. This is five acres, I believe. So, and you're trying to coordinate between different property owners as well. So I was actually kind of surprised and heartened that there are some connections. I think Efren's pointing that out, that were thought of ahead of time to mitigate or minimize the curb cuts onto Nicholas. But in terms of a grand coordinating and timing that among these smaller lots that are kind of piecemealing into the greater context of the city, challenging, kind of is what it is there. You have basically just a shotgun lot right there with 20 units on this one? Yeah, 21. So in terms of opportunity to do that, more challenging, difficult, but that connection that you see there that Efren was highlighting, to make that internal connection to the Lincoln 14, I think speaks to maybe some of the things that they could do to address those concerns.
Yeah, and that also addresses the issue of that long cul-de-sac as a safety problem. And that's at least some mitigation of that. What tools do you have in your toolbox to bring adjacent landowners together to do some joint planning? I mean, this isn't a specific plan, I know.
It's difficult because, I mean, when John Doe sells, who knows when Jane Doe sells, how do you, it's like you can't force someone to sell or coordinate. These are individual actors. And I think the best we can do is this irrevocable dedication for that little connection internally, to kind of see those things like in the grand scheme of things in terms of your access on Nicholas, looking at generally traffic kind of coordination. I think they did a pretty good job on that, actually.
Yeah.
And then there's another street down there that we were looking at, Efren. Was it Can't remember the name. Sorry? Donatello, that you can see is kind of stubbed out there on the bottom. We have the Google Earth, yeah, right there.
I'm sorry.
And that's right, that's just sitting there waiting for these folks to basically sell their lots at some point. So there was some foresight there where that road will continue through and provide that internal connection. So
All right. How about,
beyond that, if you have any other concrete kind of ideas, like, we should,
Yeah.
Well-
welcome to hear.
it would be nice to have some kind of trail or bicycle trail or walk
Well,
pedestrian path that would connect somehow back to Joyner, where you do have employment centers and retail.
If I
Maybe
if I may.
even the bottom of the cul-de-sac. I don't know.
If I may, I just wanted to answer your earlier question about Nicholas Road. So here's the building pads for the subdivision. You have that sound wall right here. And then you have the 15-foot landscaping lot. Then you have the sidewalk, curb cut, and then the actual Nicholas Road. The two Nicholas Road right here. That's the merging lane that goes into the development, because there's a section that will go right in, right out to that new proposed street. And then you have a 6-foot wide bike lane. And then you have the two individual lanes on Nicholas Road, then the divider, and then the other side of Nicholas Road going westbound.
What I meant to ask, and I probably wasn't clear, was within the subdivision, is the sidewalk contiguous to the curb, or do you have a parkway where you have trees and landscaping
So
between the curb and the sidewalk?
yes, so there's two different designs on here for the subdivision. So you have the pad here, a 4-foot sidewalk, curb, gutter, and then the street going both directions. So that's and then on the same thing for the other street, similar design. And so if you look at it, this is the 50-foot right-of-way here of the subdivision.
Yeah.
So that street leading in here. And then this is the 40-foot wide future street stub out that will connect to the adjacent properties.
Right.
And
But
then we also have the applicant here that can answer some of these specific design questions as well.
all right, well, let me put some, I'm still not understanding what you're saying. Within the subdivision, is the curb adjacent to the sidewalk? Or is there a parkway where they have trees planted and landscaping? Okay, so the answer is no. Okay, well,
I mean, there's
the reason I bring this point up is because of land use policy 14.4.
Sorry,
pedestrian
Jerry.
friendly streets.
Jerry, people online will not be able to hear you. If you can please move the mic forward. Thank you.
I'm sorry, thanks. Steve. In the general plan, there is a land use policy 14.4, pedestrian-friendly streets, which reads, "The city shall design local streets to not only accommodate traffic, but also to serve as comfortable pedestrian environments. Street tree planting between the street and the sidewalk to provide a buffer between the pedestrian and the automobile. Sidewalks on both sides of streets with the sidewalk separate from the curb face with landscape strip where feasible." And I'm not omitting the fair or feasible when feasible, but I think that is an important general plan policy and
yeah, and it is being addressed by the subdivision. So you have that policy is being addressed by the landscaping lots, lot B, lot C, and then also in the public utility easement. When this project does come forward in the improvement plan stage, planning does review the typical front yard landscaping for subdivisions such as this. And then we have the requirement for the street trees that go in this sort of like area between the basically on the actual lots. But again, the applicant's here, he can answer more specific questions. Far better than I can.
Do you have anything further, Jerry?
No,
Right now.
not at this time. no.
Was there anybody else that had a question of staff? Before we?
I think I have some questions after the public hearing.
But for now, are there any other questions of staff? We're open to public hearing, at which time we can hear from developer. We'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public, first of all, that would like to speak to this item?
Chairman Gilbert, I do not see any hands raised online, and I did not receive any cards. I don't see anyone in the room.
Our public hearing is open. If there's anybody in the room that'd like to speak during the public hearing, now is your opportunity. Seeing none, Chair will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. And I'll recognize council members. You get to go first.
Thank you. Commissioner, I'm not a council member. So
Excuse
just to
Throw back-
clarify the record
Yeah,
that
throw back from 3 years ago when I was on the council.
I recognize. Quick question, the outlet road that you have going to the west, is the plan for the project that you're looking around it, will it have a left out to Nicholas? Or is this entire subdivision area only going to be right ins? Even with the new subdivision, the U shape that you're looking at internally, currently this is only right in, right out, there's no left. So how does somebody get to the west on Nicholas?
The access to the west via that stub is to be determined, but there are 2 points of access. One off of Joyner Parkway. This is for Lincoln 14 now, right? And then one going to Donatello Parkway. And of course, in the event that Lincoln Place happens, then you'll have its access off of that. So it'll at least have 2 points of access, one through Donatello to the south, and then on the west side, it's access directly off of Joyner Parkway.
But when you go,
I-
if you're in that subdivision, if I understand what
Oh.
you're saying, and that new development comes in, you can travel through that development, get to Joyner Parkway,
Mhm.
where there'll be a left to Joyner?
I
Or is it gonna
can-
only be a right?
I can answer that question. So from the main street going back up to Nicholas, it's right in, right out. And then once you take a right, you can go to the far left lane. And then at the actual intersection, there's a street light that allows you to do a U-turn so you can go
So
westbound.
it'll be a U-turn in order to go
Correct, yeah.
that direction. Okay, that's the, and there is no guarantee that the subdivision around it will happen, or at which point in time that would happen.
Lincoln 14 has been submitted. It's at the moment it's on hold, but it is being coordinated between these two projects. The applicants, engineers are in coordination regarding the design and connectivity. So it is in process, but it's currently on hold. Lincoln 14 is.
And has a traffic study, I mean, will that U-turn always be allowed? Is there any expectation that at some point in the future that U-turn may not be allowed?
We could defer that to our engineering colleagues. I think Lindy Childress might be on the line. At the moment, again, given the project's on hold, we don't know the specifics yet because it's been placed on hold, so we can't process it at the moment. But maybe Lindy might know more about the status of the movement as far as that U-turn at Joyner and Nicholas Road. I know there was discussion about that, but it's been a while since the project Lincoln 14 was was in motion, so but I just don't know enough of the information, but Lindy might know more about it in terms of the traffic situation at that intersection. And I'm not sure if Linda's on the line. Is Lindy on the line?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
Lindy is online.
yes. Can you hear me?
No, not barely.
Barely. Okay.
Okay, that's better.
We can
That's
hear.
better. Okay. So if you were asking about the intersection, I missed, if you were talking about coming north out of Lincoln Place, turning right on Nicholas Road, or were you referring to the other subdivision that's not before you tonight?
No, you're correct, Lindy. Coming out north,
Lincoln Place, turning right on Nicholas Road, how would you then reverse and go westbound on Nicholas Road?
correct.
So yes, they would be able to go to that intersection of, let me get to that.
Joyner and Nicholas.
Yeah, and, I'm trying to get there and, yes, and that is it's currently a left turn. I'm just trying to look at the intersection. Because right now it's a left turn. It's a left turn.
It's left turn only.
That's what I'm trying to get to. is I'm sorry.
I can see on the,
Can you see it on
street
Google?
view, it is a U-turn.
It's a
sign that
U-turn.
allows a
So,
U-turn
and
right
we don't
there.
anticipate changing the traffic signal from allowing what it is currently timed for to something else at this point. Did that
Okay.
answer? Wait,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a little uncomfortable with the fact that if some point in the future, either the surrounding traffic doesn't allow for a left onto Nicholas, everybody has to come up there and make a U-turn.
Mhm.
And if some point in the future, I don't know what that trigger would be. I
Mhm.
don't, I'm not a traffic
Mhm.
person to understand that, but if there's a possibility that a U-turn would no longer be allowed,
Mhm.
that will make that area very challenging to and circuitous for people to try and go westbound on Nicholas.
If I
Yeah.
may, Lindy,
Go ahead.
what would be the case for eliminating a U-turn, given that there would be more traffic on it? Is it that it wouldn't be able to function as well, or do you have any speculation on that?
I don't.
Is that, have you seen that? Like, you typically were allowing U-turns to
Right.
expedite more traffic.
Right. Yeah, I
Like-
don't, correct. I don't see a reason that traffic signal would be changed from a permitted left and U to a permitted left only. I am not currently envisioning a reason that U-turn would be eliminated. With the project that is called Lincoln 14, that would allow additional routes of circulation and connectivity also. So that would provide alternative routes, but I'm not imagining a reason that we would eliminate this U-turn. When we have space for it, we want to do that. And the traffic signal currently functions this way. So I'm just not seeing a reason that we would eliminate that in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Right now, we're getting any questions of the commission answered by staff, any additional questions. And so I'm looking this way because to make sure you're all okay. How about here? Any additional questions of staff? Questions further? Well,
The developer
developer had his
Well,
opportunity to
okay.
speak.
Well, I have some questions that I would like to ask if I could.
Sure, you can, of course, that's what I'm,
Oh, okay,
that's
but
what I'm asking.
not necessarily of staff, but of.
It doesn't matter. It
Okay,
doesn't matter who
okay,
you want.
all right.
If staff can answer it, fine. If we need to call the developer up, we'll call the developer up. But any
Okay.
interested party that can, answer your question, we'll bring them here because we want to get you answers. But if you have a question, then let's ask your question.
Okay,
please.
here it is. In order to think ahead, I guess, would it be possible to have a connection at the end of the cul-de-sac to allow a future pedestrian or trail connection at least?
An appropriate question for the developer, I don't think so. It would have to be
Let's
staff,
let's
and
do
and
staff.
I don't think staff has an answer today to that.
Well, I would just say that logistically, kind of reiterating the points I made earlier, I don't know really how you would impose that on a TBD subdivision in a coordinated, it just gets really like the coordination. I mean, these are small subdivisions. It's not, when you have that bigger subdivision, that's very, appropriate and easy to implement, but
I was just looking for something
Yeah.
like the cutouts that you had for the future development. A similar kind of cutout or right-of-way reserved for
Efren, can
that.
you bring up the map, a Google map of it, so we can kind of see just the other lots there? And I guess we would be speculating on whether that house to the east would then sell. I mean,
Lincoln Place is these two properties here. You kind of see.
so what do we know about this area in terms of like what's again, we have Lincoln Place, project in question, and then Lincoln 14, which wraps around that. Do you have, and you have your exhibit too, that kind of showed that in more detail. So maybe that would just be a concrete way to look at this. Because Commissioner Johnson, you're envisioning a trail at the bottom of Lincoln Place cutting east onto Joyner?
Well, it might be that, or it might be no more than access to another street. It just somehow that people can walk or ride their bicycle out of the park, out of that subdivision
Not going all the way.
without going all the way up to Nicholas.
That just runs into like designing and maybe potentially eliminating a lot. I don't know if
I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't appear, there's a lot of room there.
Those are-
at this moment, I'd like to invite the developer. He could probably answer a lot of these questions.
Correct. Thank you.
Mike Robertson, Baker Williams Engineering Group. I'm the engineer on the project. I'm not the developer, but I'm representing the ownership. Thank you, Efren, for a good job. So this is a whole project's been around a long time. They said it was expired and the owners decided to keep it going. So we did a resubmission of the map. It ended up being a full submittal since it did expire. But this whole area here, all the way from Joyner, all the 7 lots that you see in front of it, it has been master planned multiple times. My firm has got 24 layouts on this whole area. I know for other engineers working with it, they have the same thing. We've compared notes and can't believe how many times a subdivision get designed in this area. But we have 7 property owners, 7 engineers probably, and 7 attorneys, and not gonna hard to get along. Now, at the same time, I think we have a plan. And this is the first subdivision that you'll probably see more coming after this. This will be the first one in this area. Originally, it was a single cul-de-sac with only one access in. And the city was very uncomfortable with this whole area having multiple accesses onto Nicholas Road. So we all got together, put our heads together and said, okay, Nicholas Place is first. It's gonna have to go first. It will be one of the intersections onto Nicholas Road. The next subdivisions that ultimately get developed could be Lincoln 14 down the road. It'll wrap around and connect to our westerly, our street stub, and it'll also wrap around to Joyner Parkway. But as you know, that's not what's in front of you. Eventually, there's another intersection. I can't read this street. What is that? The Ranch Road. What is that? Fox Trail, yeah, that'll eventually be one of the access points onto Nicholas. That'll create a couple intersections onto Nicholas to keep traffic to a minimum onto Nicholas for the full access. And to answer the question you had on the intersection on the U-turn at Joyner, this is what the engineering does for major intersections, is to allow those U-turn activities at those major intersections, because it's a Nicholas Road is really nice, separated with a real nice big median. So that's where those intersections are designed to do, is to collect the traffic and for full turns, including U-turns. So I agree. I can't see a reason why that U-turn would ever go away. But that's what they're intended to do. Because without that median, then people are going to want to have full turns on a Nicholas. So Nicholas is a nice separated road. But so we worked with the city and worked with the adjacent engineers and developers to create a street stub for ultimate land planning in this area. And that's been worked out. And the sidewalks are attached. The current layout, they're working with the city's staff and with the street design are based on the standards. But again, it's what was previously approved, and it was just a continuation of that.
Although this is a new one.
Yeah. Yes.
But my question was at the base of the cul-de-sac.
Yes. Can you pull up the cul-de-sac? We're down to the bottom. There's a lot A. Lot A is intended for a storm drain pipe. A storm drain pipe will be coordinated with the adjacent property owners and we'll have a connectivity. You can see into the dash line there that continues on and drains down to the creek. It wasn't required. There is an opportunity, and that storm drain will continue and the next subdivision will pick it up. There's a corridor there that could act as a connection, but you'd need their cooperation. So I would hate to put one in now. It doesn't go anywhere. That doesn't make any sense. But that lot is intended to be owned by the city. So down the road, you could have that possibility.
All right, how does lot A connect? Okay, so it's a pretty broad connection there, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I'm looking at
We have a storm drain line going through there.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. Yeah. so
Great
the-
to have trails built on top of it.
Yeah, it's underground pipe, so there's that opportunity, but I wouldn't want to put that in with this subdivision because it would be a path to nowhere. But it would be a city-owned lot, and eventually you'd have that opportunity down the road. So that's a good idea.
Do you have the option within the right of way to separate the curb from the sidewalk and still have buildable lots?
Not within the right of way, it would have to be a different layout, but that's, there's that possibility. You have to work with the city staff on that.
Well, that is the general plan standard. I don't know about the building standard. Okay, thank you. I do not.
Okay.
Question from the public that we may have missed?
I don't see any hands raised online.
Okay, the chair then. Good. I'm sorry, you're waving at me. I don't know what you want.
Are you asking public to speak right now? Public hearing is closed. Would you like him the opportunity
It's
to?
closed.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't have any open questions at the moment. Okay, we're going to bring it back. Chair will look for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion in a second. We do this by roll call? Please.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner John Reedy,
Yes.
and Chairman Gilbert.
Yes, motion passes 601. I need to come back to my agenda. I got. Great, 8B, thank you. Ferrari Pavilion, public hearing to consider a specific development plan and development permit and conditional use permit for the construction and operation of the proposed Ferrari Pavilion commercial development consistent with the Sun City Lincoln Hills General Development Plan. And I'll leave the rest of it to staff to present to the commission.
Good evening, Mel Pavlinis, Planning Manager. Item 8B, as Chair mentioned, this is the proposed Ferrari Pavilion Commercial Center. And I have a brief PowerPoint slide summarizing what's presented to your commission and to the general public. The applicant is here as well as the property owner. To date, we have not received any public comments on this project. Just wanted to point that out. Just a quick overview of the project. The proposed Ferrari Pavilion is approximately 69,578 square feet of commercial center within 8 buildings. The vacant 12-acre property is within the Sun City Hills Lincoln General Development Plan, which is part of the 12 Bridges Specific Plan. The requested entitlements consist of the following: a specific development plan or design review for the proposed buildings, a conditional use permit for specific uses, including a drive-through as well as alcohol sales, and a findings of consistency with the general plan involving the vacation of a landscape easement along Ferrari Ranch Road and Lincoln Boulevard. The applicant for this and property owner for this project are Freege Design Group and Arm Properties LLC, who both of them are in the audience today. This is a site plan or a location map of the proposed project. If you can see that, okay, good. Shown in the circle here, highlighting in blue outline and in red color is the proposed 12-acre property, northeast corner of Lincoln Boulevard and Ferrari Ranch Road. It is commercially zoned per the GDP, the specific plan, and the general plan. It is surrounded by existing uses on the west side, which is Lincoln Crossing, Lincoln Hills Center, which is Safeway, CVS, pharmacy, and other uses, commercial uses. Auburn Ravine Creek borders the property to the north, and to the southeast as well is portion of the 12 of the Sun City. Aerial photo again of the property in blue. It is a vacant site. It was previously graded as per the previous approvals of the project, and those previous approvals, as discussed in the staff report, have expired. So what we have here is basically the new project, the new version of Ferrari Pavilion. There are improvements existing, in particular along Ferrari Ranch Road, which includes a sidewalk, gutter, and curb and gutter. This is a site plan, again, as presented in your staff report of the proposed project. Close to 70,000 square feet of commercial, 8 buildings total, This is gonna be an auto oil change. This one will be a restaurant. Circle K gas station is right here, and the gas canopy with 6 pumps is located underneath here. This is another building with several tenants, multiple uses. Another building with 2 tenants anticipated right here. Quick Quack Car Wash, and this one large building here consists of two uses, grocery outlet, and this one, I'm not sure what it is yet as far as the use itself. And we have a daycare facility bordering along the eastern side of the property. Potentially, the total of 12 tenants would be anticipated, but all depends on how the property owner divvies up the spaces. But at least based on current site plan and floor plan, it does show, based on my accounting at least, is 12 tenant spaces. Side accesses would be off of Lincoln Boulevard, right there. And 2 points of access right here, opposite the further driveway onto the gas station operated by Safeway. And the second point of access along the southeastern portion of the project. And I believe the creek, the bridge is right here somewhere in this area. Just for orientation's sake, wanted to point that out. This point of access will be signalized as discussed in the staff report. So those are all the points of access onto the property. And similar exhibits presented to you in your staff report. Proposed uses includes restaurants. There's about 3 of them: a car wash, a gas station, a daycare facility, and retail stores. The building floor area ranges from 1570 square feet to about 18,000 square feet of commercial floor area. And these are all the perspective shots as discussed and presented in the staff report. A similar site plan, and in this particular exhibit, I'm going to highlight that there are, subject to conditional use permit, there are drive-throughs which are subject to a CUP that are proposed, and those are all circled in oval and circle in color there. The drive-throughs proposed, of course, are for the oil station. I think this is going to be a restaurant. This is Starbucks here, a restaurant to be determined, and Quick Quack Car Wash. Those have all have a various type of drive-throughs, given the nature of their proposed uses, and they've been designed according to city standards with regards to stacking, the location, making sure that it minimizes any traffic and circulation impacts from within, and of course, making sure that there's no impacts along the frontage roads as well. So those have been designed according to standards. Also subject to a conditional use permit there are 2 uses that are proposing alcohol sales. And this is a grocery outlet. Again, it's for consumption and or sales of alcohol. And of course, the gas station right there. There are uses on site, restaurant, of course, restaurant, if they are proposing if the restaurant is proposing to sell alcohol, it is permitted per the ordinance. So all the restaurants are proposing here, including in particular, I believe, this one right here does have alcohol sales, but it's a permitted use per the ordinance. So because it's a bona fide use per the code. So as such, all the non-restaurant or non-bona fide uses are the ones that are subject to a conditional use permit. Some plans, also again shown in your staff report, improvements and amenities on site. This is the landscape plan shown here, and this is the grading plan for the project. There are improvements including parking, landscaping, signage, as well as lighting and signage. There are improvements proposed along the road, including curb and gutter and sidewalk and bicycle lane along Lincoln Boulevard, and as well as an installation of a traffic signal at the intersection with at the access off of Ferrari Ranch Road. This will connect to existing public sewer, water, drainage that's existing adjacent to the property. Some more perspective shots of the project. Shown here are the designs. And of course, a different theme and decor that's being utilized for this project. They all meet and conform to the anticipated and approved design standards in the Sun City Lincoln Hills General Development Plan. They're also matching the existing architecture and design for the Lincoln Hills Town Center next door to the south. The Design Review Board Committee also heard this project back in April and have recommended approval of the project, identifying that these conform to the standards in Sun City, as well as conforming with the general theme and designs in the area. As discussed in the staff report, staff has determined that the project to be consistent with the general plan, the Toll Bridges specific plan, Sun City Hills General Development Plan, and zoning code Title 18. The DRB recommended approval of the project to your commission for consideration tonight. The project is deemed exempt from further environmental analysis, given that the project it complies with the environmental impact report for the adopted Toll Bridges specific plan, subject to the mitigation measures for that EIR. There are conditions of approval that are applied, and those are all attached in resolutions that's presented to your commission. And these conditions, if approved by your commission, would ensure that the project is orderly and timely developed. As detailed in the staff report, staff recommends the following to the Plan Commission: that the project be found to be exempt from further environmental analysis, given that it's consistent with the Toll Bridges Specific Plan EIR, and approval of the Ferrari Pavilion commercial development based on resolution approving the specific development plan and design review, resolution approving the conditional use permit for the drive-throughs, resolution approving the conditional use permit for the alcohol sales or consumption, and resolution for determining findings of consistency with the general plan for the proposed vacation of the landscape easement for the project. Be more than happy to answer your questions if you have any for staff, and the applicant as well can provide some context and answer your questions that you may have. Thank you.
Questions at this time?
No.
I have a few. Your staff report, among other things, says that this plan is consistent with the city's general plan. I wonder, land use policy number 13 within the general plan says to preserve Lincoln's character and scale, including its traditional urban design and historic character. That's what our goal is. Among other things, it calls for the city to identify key entry points on the edges of the downtown and support programs and projects that enhance downtown gateways and transitional zones between downtown and surrounding neighborhoods to make downtown more inviting for residents and visitors. You think this qualifies as a downtown gateway?
It's outside of it.
Gateway.
Well, gateway could be.
Well, does it fall under this section of the general plan?
Well, there's also an accompanying Toll Bridges specific plan that it adheres to those policies in the general plan. I think from staff's point of view, we have to make sure that it conforms with the next level up, which of course.
I understand, but is this a gateway project?
It's, I don't know if it's a gateway project per se, that it's within the downtown area, because downtown, there's a defined area of the planning area for downtown. It's outside of downtown, it's within the specific plan. So from that standpoint, it all depends on the perspective and definition.
Okay,
of how you-
let's.
Yeah, I
agree
would
to
just jump
disagree
in
on
that
point.
per our previous planning commission meeting, technically it's not in the downtown, but to your point, it's at the beginning, it's south of the Auburn Ravine, so you guys can determine that as well. But technically, by the book, not in the downtown.
Right, I understand. downtown gateway, which I, okay. Well, let's try another one. Land use policy 12.6, visual access to creeks and wetland areas. Wherever practical, the city will encourage new development to be oriented towards adjacent creeks and wetland areas and provide visual access to these areas. Does this project do that?
In some portions of it, yes, it does. Again,
Where?
depending on the perspective you're looking at, I mean, the open
Well,
space.
I see these two retail stores.
Excuse me, let him answer your question.
Okay, fair enough.
Ask him a question, give him a chance to answer.
Fair enough.
There are points of access right along here. Again, visually speaking, you know, depending on the observer, the person's point of view, where they're looking from, there are visual access from the development onto the open space. There is open space on the borders along the east and the northern property perimeter lines. Again, it's generally written that way, but I believe there is a visual access to it as designed.
All right. I'll pass. At some point, I'd like to ask the developer some questions, but we can do that at a different time if you
Give me more
prefer.
questions.
No, I don't.
We have some questions at this point.
So I got a couple. The big monument sign is 35 feet tall, which seems a little taller than Safeway and Rayleigh's and Lincoln Crossing, and all the ones in the two main boulevards. What's the code on this and why so tall?
35 feet.
It's huge.
Yeah, and I acknowledge that, and then it's in the GDP. It is 35 feet maximum height.
Okay, what's the code on the, like,
The
do we
Lincoln Code.
have to let it be 35 feet, or can it be shorter like everything else?
I don't
on the
know
two
off the top of
adjacent
my
streets?
head what the maximum sign height is in the zoning code, Title 18.
Right.
But again, our default here is to look at what the applicable standard per the GDP, which is 35 feet. So, but again, I don't remember what the maximum height sign is for, you know, in the zoning code. But in the GDP, which is what's applicable, is 35 feet maximum.
Okay, so an attorney question, can we ask for it to be smaller, shorter?
You can always ask.
The second question I had for you is talk about how pedestrians get from the east to downtown through the site. So we have a trail on the east side, right, coming from Lincoln Hills, and it kind of dead ends into the daycare, right? How do they get from there to the downtown? If we want to encourage pedestrian traffic to the downtown, how are they going to traverse the site to get there?
As for this project, there will be, of course, curb and gutter and sidewalk along its frontage in Lincoln Boulevard, crossing the creek. Of course, across the creek, you have Dutch Brothers there. They're gonna have their own required connections there, sidewalk, curb and gutter. That will facilitate the connectivity into downtown, but that takes both development to facilitate that.
It looks like there is some screening on lot 4. Is there any for the drive on lot 4, the Starbucks? Is there any concrete or hard screening on lots 2, 5, or the car wash for the street?
Car wash right here. I don't know off the top of my head. We can ask the engineer that. There will be landscape screening, but anything hard screening, I don't believe there is, but we can confirm that with Tony.
Okay, so the only hard screening may just be on lot 4, the Starbucks.
I believe the Starbucks is right here, right in this area right here. Not sure if you see it. Yeah. But again, there's landscaping. Is a concern regarding visibility of the building?
I just want
right?
to clarify where screening is and isn't.
Yeah, well, other than the landscape screening along, of course, as part of the, along the sidewalk, I don't believe there's anything else, but we can confirm that with Tony.
Okay, and my last question is about traffic. So you have one entrance off of Lincoln Boulevard, right where it goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane. And that's basically the only way to get to down. I mean, you can come out the other ones, but what analysis have we done on the traffic patterns that having 5 drive-through elements in this density will do to the traffic at this intersection and entering downtown?
That again, in terms of traffic analysis, there wasn't anything specific done for this, but as being part of the overall Toll Bridges specific plan and Sun City Hills GDP, that was analyzed there. In terms of the improvements that's being proposed here, either Tony can also respond to that, or perhaps our engineering team can also provide some a response to your question. So I'll defer to both of them.
So you referenced that some analysis was done earlier on. Was that knowing what was going to go on here, or is that just sort of generally this traffic will be fine?
The uses, it was identified as far as what could go there and establish as part of the GDP. That was discussed. Again, it's a larger development, part of the Toll Bridges. It was even further narrowed down into sub areas. And that's what the subsequent EAR was certified to address those anticipated uses for that site. Of course, it to the point that, to the extent that it was applicable, whatever CIP projects were also referenced and into the study. But as far as other analysis, of course, you have physical impacts, ground impacts, those were analyzed. And again, it's in the context of the EAR.
Right. So it sounds to me like when any traffic analysis may have been done, it was before we knew we were going to have 4 or 5 drive-throughs in the gas station.
Well, again, the drive-throughs are CUP driven. There's
Right.
designs that are applied, but if you're talking about just vehicular traffic, that would have been part of the analysis that was conducted and then incorporated into the certified EAR. So again, as long as the uses standards are met by this project of all those applicable policies, we found them to be consistent with CEQA determination.
So we've seen this project before in a different, very similar layout, right? And the retail use next to grocery outlet bargain market, I think, was a Goodwill retail store. Is that still the plan, is to have that use there? Because at the time, we had a lot of discussion about that particular usage and how loading was going to go. I think there were some conditions placed on that. Is that still the plan?
I'll defer to the applicant with regards to the anticipated tenant for that. What we look at is basically, does it meet setbacks? Does it meet the design, parking, based on the square footage? But regarding the actual tenant, that will defer to the applicant to.
Because there was a lot of discussion about how people were going to come and offload, product to the store, how long it could stay out, the back use of the site, as I recall, and there were some conditions. I see Tony nodding his head, yes. So I'd like to understand if those conditions have been brought forward, or if it's going to be a different tenant.
I'll defer to the applicant
Thank you.
regarding the tenant user.
And then I would just point out, Mr. Commissioner Johnson, that at the time we saw this, there was a lot of discussion about the interface to the open space. Very difficult on this corner because all your buildings then would be on the streets. In order to maintain an open space view, you got to flip everything backwards. And so what's better, to drive by and see the backs of buildings, or to have them where you can see them coming in? So I just wanted to, just as a point of information, that we had seen this probably 2 years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago.
It was
And-
3 years ago
And
originally.
there was a fair amount of discussion about the orientation of the site relative to the open space and the difficulties that it creates on that corner. So
Weren't
I
there-
just
weren't-
wanted
yes,
to, for those who weren't on the commission at the time, that we have seen this before, and there had been a lot of discussion about that, which drove this sort of design.
I was going to, just to add to that, that I believe that we did have certain conditions of approval required as well if they were going to go forward with the goodwill drop off. It was a tremendous concern to us. I was fortunate to serve on the design review board, and so I had an opportunity in April to ask many questions at that time. And so I will defer any other time to the rest of the commissioners.
I'll get to you in just a moment, Jerry. One question that I would like answered is, when I reviewed the packet where we talk about the gas station, it shows 3 pumps, rather 3 grades of gas. Sign that shows the pricing does not show 3. So one way or another, something's wrong there. If it was just an oversight in the design, but if you're going to have 3 grades of gasoline, I believe you have to show the price of all 3 in signage visible from the street.
And,
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna comment that, gas and sign prices are not within our purview. It's the state's purview to regulate that. But we have, our sign standards does regulate the size, of course, of the sign area. That'll be further verified during building permit. What's shown before you are, at least the sign package, are preliminary. And we review it from standpoint of design. The content, we can't regulate that because it's, First Amendment, in terms of regulation of free speech. But as far as gasoline prices, we don't regulate that. And but noted with regards to those pricing, it might be that's premature at this point. It's kind of showing what it could look like when it does move forward to pass this consideration by the commission tonight.
Yeah, well, my perspective is very different than yours. In my 45 years of serving an elected and appointed official, if you approve something with, it's going to infer a certain thing, you may end up with that. And it's not going to work when you have 3 grades of gasoline. So I need to point it out so that if it's an oversight, we somehow correct it. And we don't want them to invest in putting up a sign with 1 price when there's 3. That was the only reason I brought it up.
Thank you.
The other thing is, under full disclosure, I did have a resident contact me yesterday on this project. They said that they are a customer for many years, a grocery outlet. They go travel to another city to shop there. And they asked me, are we going to approve one in Lincoln soon? And I said, funny you should ask me that, because tomorrow night the Planning Commission is considering a shopping center, and I told her some details about it. And there is a grocery outlet proposed. So I just wanted full disclosure on that. You had some additional questions before we open?
Well, just to the ladies that were on the design review a few years ago. On these 2 retail stores, just imagine that they're restaurants and you're entering through the area for the parking is, and behind, overlooking the green belt and creek, you're able to have outdoor dining, maybe even on a platform that gets you out even further towards. I'm just saying that it's not that difficult to orient a project to take advantage of the natural environment. And that's an opportunity that is sadly missed in this development. I also want to comment on John's comment about bringing up the trail to nowhere. I think that it's an oversight not to have that either in this or next to it. And I'm hoping that if this project is approved, that the city will someday put the trail through there as envisioned by the city's bike master plan, trail plan. And that's all I've got. Oh, well, let me just say this. So I have an opportunity to do it before we go to a vote.
We're not going to vote until the public hearing.
Okay, then I will say my comments.
Okay, are there any other?
The developer probably will respond to this, but that's a digital sign, so they can change the grades and the price. On the unleaded, it's noted in there.
Yeah, but the illustration only showed one position for pricing.
Right, but they can, they can change, I'll let him explain it.
Okay. Are there any more questions from the commission? If not, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak? Well, ask the developer or the representative to please come forward, and we'd appreciate if you could address the questions of the commissioners, and we'll go from there. Welcome, Tony.
Good evening. Thank you, Commissioner, for having us here tonight, finally. It's been 23 years of journey to be here. We have with us the owner, Ammar Sidhu, and the audience. We have also Jocelyn with Borges. She's was an architect working with us. We have Ferman Limi. We have others on Zoom. Also, we have some of the future tenants are here and also on Zoom. So we have a full load of individuals been anxious. I would say some couple years, some like me. We started on this project. We graded it when we were working on Del Webb and Ferrari Road in 1999, 2000. So that's how long. And I thought I missed the opportunity a few years back when it came forward to the Planning Commission. My dad was dying. Since then, I lost him. So I had to leave. So I wasn't here for that moment of approval. But I know we worked hard to get the approval at that time. And yes, there were a lot of conditions and back and forth on certain stores. And fortunately, and also unfortunately, is that we had COVID, delayed us also. And the tenant or the owner that was working on the project lost the project. The deal didn't go through. But since then, Ammar Sidhu picked up the project. And we were fortunate that most of the tenants were part of the original deal are still with us. We only changed 3 buildings locations, and we brought one new restaurant to the mix. But basically, Goodwill store is here. It didn't go away. All the conditions were worked through on the project, and in reality, we were beyond that. We submitted improvement plans. We had first review. The project was going to bid and construction, and then COVID came. So we were that far in advance, and we had to go back a little bit with no ownership. Then we went back to get the amendment to the tentative map to extend it. And through design review, here we are. The goal is hopefully to get approval of consent tonight so we can move forward. And I know that everybody has been anxious to move forward to beat the weather if we can. We have to do improvement plans, CDs. A lot of work has to go. So there's a lot of team, a lot of tenants. This is really one of a good opportunity here is that we're not looking for a site anymore that's going to sit there working, waiting for tenants. And Ammar can add to that if I miss anything regarding that. We have most of the site has been either signed a lease or open approvals are ready to sign the lease so they can start working on the construction drawing. So this is really It's an opportunity for Lincoln to finally fill in infill almost, because we worked around it. And we're able to move it forward and get that built finally with tenants ready to go, not going to wait, and we have empty pads. So that's really a good opportunity. I know Amar is committed to Lincoln. He met with the staff, and I really want to thank staff. Looks like I see them, but behind me.
Right behind you.
You know, worked hard, especially he had to take over when Don left, and Mel was good to work with us. So we lost another month, but here we are. And everybody worked with us on this project, so we appreciate it. So I can see you, sorry. So this project, again, many thoughts and planning and, you know, how to take opportunities and, you know, work with tenants so you can develop something where you have tenants to move forward, because really, you know, 23 years of lost tax dollars is not a good idea. Now we have we started 14,000 people in Lincoln, and now we have 50,000 plus. A lot of people are anxious to start utilizing the site, pay taxes, go to grocery outlet, go to the other restaurants that we have. So it's a great opportunity for Lincoln. So we're looking forward to get it done. A couple of things I want to mention, and maybe some of it will answer some of the questions. And if I don't, please let me know again. One of the things it was mentioned that we don't have any comments from anybody. And the reason is that we had prior, even before design review, some neighbors attended the tended map. And we knew that we met the law, but we went beyond the law. So we met with them. They had some concern about the car wash. And even though we met all the zoning laws and noise, we decided to go beyond that. You know, the tenant is here, Quick Whack. We worked with their sound engineer, which was also on Zoom, and we addressed their concern to be below the typical traffic and below what's required. So we don't exist as the neighbors. So we added more things. That's why they're happy. There were about 20 of them met online, and they were happy that we addressed their concern. So that's how we like it. If we know there's an issue, we can fix it. Why not? As far as traffic, yes, this was included, and in the prior studies, we had to work with city on construction of intersections, signal added. We need to keep in mind, Ferrari showed when we designed it, it was planned for 4 lanes. And the city, I believe right now, are looking to move forward with a design on the second 2 lanes. That's already planned going north toward 193. And even if the city couldn't do that, soon Village One is going to trigger that, and there's PFE agreement and all that's in place. So I don't anticipate that's going to be far into the future. Probably it's within a year to 2-year construction timeline. There's a triggers for it, but looks like it's happening even sooner because we just found out the city, and Mel can add to that, they're working on the widening of that already as a design going to be initiated. So that's great. When I designed that road, we anticipated the future, worked with the city, we worked with DOA, and we said, you know what, to make it easier, let's build the 4-lane bridge up front. So that's, even though striped this way, it is for 4-lane. So it's set up so you don't have to do anything with the bridge going forward. As far as sidewalks, this has, you know, according to the general plan, even though started before the updated general plan, we still, you know, on your collector street roadways, you're supposed to work with meandering walk, which I agree with Jerry on that. So typically you end up with monolithic is when you have either right turning lane. So that's when you're allowed to get too close to the curb. Or if you have bus stop, which we have one on Lincoln Boulevard, we have locations and the sidewalk has to meet your bus stop. Otherwise, we are meandering walk along the whole stretch. Besides, this is, as you know, designed for a bus stop. And then as you can see, this is really doesn't give it justice, but we wanted the visual to be really good. And the site here is about 4 to 5 feet higher. So as you drive into toward the bridge and toward downtown, the site is higher in use. So there's landscaping and there's walkways. So it's kind of create a little bit more visuals. And right now you drive the site, it's kind of level with Lincoln Boulevard. So it gives you that separation So kind of also that protect the visual from, drive-throughs around the restaurants. And working with traffic, working with staff was very concerned about making sure that we don't have backing up into Lincoln Boulevard or Ferrari. We don't like those. So we designed all these drive-throughs. If there's any potential, also we met the depths required, they're going to back up into the commercial site itself, into the parking lot, not into the main streets. So the staff was concerned about that. There's one location where they're even more concerned, so we added a sign saying no left or whatever to protect what they're looking for. As far as sign height, it's a challenge, what's a couple feet less or trees. Because, we look at trees right now when we plant them, they are only 9-8 feet, but we're looking at maturity. I work in my business by our building, and because of trees, you cannot see where we are. So we love them, and it becomes an issue. So that's why it's a little bit higher. Let me know if I missed anything to answer any question. That. I'm representing a few people, so maybe I'm taking more than 3 minutes. I appreciate that.
Are there any questions that we posed that they haven't answered? Just remind them of anything that we put out there.
Mr.
I
Amar.
would like to answer Commissioner's question about Goodwill Store. You're absolutely right. Every single condition that was 2 years ago or approximately has been incorporated, and we are talking to Goodwill as a potential tenant, and that's probably very likely. And everything you said was absolutely true, and nothing has changed. All those conditions that were imposed were literally brought into this project. So I know you asked that, and I wanted to address that. And I'll be happy to answer any other questions anybody else. We try to do the best job with Borges, with the elevations and the towers and the stucco to make it into a beautiful shopping center that will be inviting and serve the needs of the citizens of Lincoln.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is there any?
I just want to add about the walkability.
Moment. Okay. We have a commissioner asked a question.
Oh, I just wanted to follow up, since I wasn't on the commission when you did those conditions, which ones are they? Can staff tell us which ones are the ones from Goodwill that were brought forward?
Mal, do we have any idea?
Unfortunately, I don't. I just, since those conditions that entitlement expired, it's been as acknowledged by the applicant, those conditions were incorporated as designs into this current project. That's how it's
So
being.
they're no longer specified as conditions in the attachment. You're saying they're in the design now.
Exactly.
If you look at the building in the back where Commissioner McKinney mentioned, back of the building, that's where the docking, and it's supposed to be designed in a way that was discussed. So the drawing went back and revised and came back with the changes to reflect what was required. Also on the side to the northeast area, that is the area of concern that was addressed and enhanced. We also added throughout the project many locations for bike racks to allow people to utilize the site. If they come from the open space, they go through the site, there's bike racks to make sure that they're able to go enjoy the site and continue going north. And then again, sidewalk, we have parallel sidewalk on the main road, but throughout the site, we are required to have connectivity for ADA. So the sidewalk has to bridge to all the buildings from everywhere you're coming from. And again, as I said, on Lincoln Boulevard, because of elevation, we have to do parallel sidewalks. So we have two sidewalks. One has to follow up to meet the ADA requirement.
Thank you. Is there anyone online that would like to speak during the public hearing?
I don't see any hands raised, Chairman Gilbert.
Are there any further comments while the public hearing is open? While I will close the public hearing, I'd like to make a comment that we have a discussion about a potential tenant tonight. And I'm going to remind a lot of people just some history. So this planning commission some years ago on this proposal was disenchanted with one of the tenants and was not in favor of doing this project. And it ended up at the city council when I was a member of the city council. And the city council endorsed this with that tenant. It is no longer an issue. All of the concerns that were addressed by the applicant are in place. And so we're not here tonight to redesign the shopping center or to decide what tenants are going to go in. I need to put a personal thing out. I used to finance shopping centers, very large shopping centers. And as the finance arm, or as the planning commission, or as the city council, you don't design shopping centers. You lend money to the lender, you approve the project because it meets your criteria, and you don't step outside your box, because when you do that, you start to cause problems for a lot of people. I want my commissioners, fellow commissioners, to understand that's not an issue here tonight. It's okay for you to have questions about it, but we don't need to make our decision based on we personally like or dislike a particular tenant that might be going into the shopping center. So I wanted to share that now. Any additional comments before we vote on this? I'll start on this end.
Yeah, my interest is into redesigning it, just to understand what those conditions were, and because I have no idea if they are or are not incorporated because they're not written down. So I would like to hear from those commissioners to have some confirmation that those concerns were addressed in the design. I still think the sign is too big. I'm still worried about the traffic. But it sounds like the Ferrari Ranch going to Four Lanes will be some mitigation there. And definitely I agree on the integration with the open space, and particularly the lack of a trail, is something we need to address, because people are just going to walk right through the middle of this thing downtown, which probably is not the ideal outcome.
We're going my way, I guess. I just want to thank you for indicating that you had included all those items into the design. I appreciate that. It's been a few years. Don't really remember it all. I remember Goodwill was here as well. And they were very committed to the community and making sure that the area is maintained, which was a big part of the discussion. And so I'm happy to have them here in the community.
Not to beat a dead horse.
Mike.
I only have a concern about the sign, and my concern is just the proximity to downtown. I know it's on our strategic plan for the Economic Development Committee to eventually, hopefully, design a gateway for the downtown. And I don't know without seeing it, and it's kind of hard to tell what it's going to look like in real life by the design review papers that I'm looking at. But my concern is that it's going to compete with that. I don't want to cause any disadvantage to the businesses or the advertising for this development. But I am also concerned that it might compete with the visibility of like a beautiful gateway. That's all.
Thank you. Jerry.
Well, just picking up where Whitney left off, it should be a beautiful gateway. And I don't think it is. I don't think it's a gateway project, certainly not one as envisioned by the general plan. The uses all combined are the perfect sort of uses you'd want off a busy arterial or highway like 65. But they're inappropriate as a gateway to our downtown. And for that reason, I just couldn't support it.
And I have no further. And I have no further comments. So I will bring it back to the commission for any proposed action. We have 4 resolutions. Just ask our city attorney. We should deal with those separately.
I move to approve resolution 2023-15.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
and Chairman Gilbert.
Yes. Motion passes 5-1-1. Look for a motion on
Hold on.
resolution. 20. Pardon?
The vote is 510, not 511.
And I said I'm looking for a resolution for 2023-16.
I'm just clarifying your
Last
statement
vote.
on the previous resolution, number 15,
Yes.
you called the vote as 511, and it's
Ooh.
just 510. That was all.
That's all clarification on the.
Just
Well,
clarification.
5-1-1 is the
Eric
person
isn't here.
that's absent.
Absence.
But he didn't vote, so it's
Well, yeah, but then you record it as 5 yes, 1 no, and 1 absent. I don't know if
there's
that-
only 6 individuals voting, so we may have to agree to disagree on that one, but my
Whatever-
tally would be 510.
You're gonna have to defend us, so whatever you say, I'll do. So 5-1, okay. Now we have resolution 2023-16. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move for adoption of resolution 2023-16 to approve a conditional use permit.
We have a second?
I'll second.
In a second, roll call, please.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
and Chairman Gilbert.
Yes. Motion passes 5-1. Resolution 2023-17. Chair will introduce. Like a motion.
I motion to adopt resolution 2023-17.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Second, roll call, please.
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Kylie McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
and Chairman Gilbert.
Yes, motion passes 5-1. Last resolution, do I have a motion?
I'll move to adopt resolution 2023-18, finding the proposed vacation of landscape easements along Lincoln Boulevard and Ferry Ranch Road.
You have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
and Chairman Gilbert.
Yes. Motion passes 5-1. Jerry, if you choose to, I'll give you an opportunity to state why you oppose the series of motions.
Just to-
courtesy to you.
Oh, sure. Well, I thought I explained it before I voted that this, I don't believe is consistent with the general plan and is inappropriate as a gateway project. And so I had to vote no. The biggest no was for the findings of consistency with the general plan, but everything else came from that.
Thank you for your comments. We now will move into item number 9, general business. There are no general business items on our agenda. Item 10, commissioner comments. I'll start down on my left.
Yeah, my only comment was we had some two commissioners comment about the sign and we didn't have any follow-up and just went to a vote right away. And I feel like we probably need to flesh that out where other commissioners were on that before we sped right on through, because it's a 35-foot thing and a shorter sign would be under the trees that grew tall, not blocked by them. So I feel like we may need to downshift just a little when a few commissioners have some concerns to flesh out where the commission is on those points before we speed on by. That would be appreciated from me. my point of view. Thank you.
I have a comment. On June 23rd, I was able to attend the Institute for Local Government. It was a virtual 7-hour training on planning commissioner requirements. After serving 7 years on the Planning Commission, it was primarily a review for me. However, I think that what really stood out that was told over and over again was the danger of personalization of commissioners when we must look at facts, findings, and general plans, but we must remove our personal feeling in making these decisions. And it was really, really emphasized many, many times during that day. And I wanted to again publicly thank the city for the opportunity to attend that.
Thank you for your comment.
I don't have any comments.
Oh, just, I'm pleased that you were able to attend that. The Local Government Commission is a wonderful resource and has done much in the field of planning, including the driving force behind the Owani principles. That's all I have.
And I'll comment that I appreciate your comment very much so, because in my career, I've many times voted for things that I personally did not like, but they met all the criteria. And therefore, it was my obligation as an elected or appointed person, say yes. And that even went as far as in family decisions, where I let my kids and my wife decide to do something that I really didn't care for, but that was the best decision that could be made for the family. So with that, does staff have any informational items for us?
Yeah, just a quick reminder, we'll see you in a little less than 2 weeks on August 1st for the joint Planning Commission, City Council meeting for the downtown market study. So short turnaround time.
Nothing else, we'll make this meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
4:30, I believe, yeah. Or 4, okay.